More than 50 million people are displaced worldwide. Reasons range from war to poverty to persecution to climate change. In recent years, one of the most noted movements has been dubbed the European migration crisis. The three most popular gateways for refugees and migrants into Europe are through the Western, Central, and Eastern Mediterranean. The Western Gateway, to Spain through Morocco, is one of the most common passages. Most try to reach the Mediterranean through the small Spanish territories of Ceuta and Melilla. These colonial-era territories make Spain the only European country with land borders with Africa. Melilla sits on the northern coast of Africa, surrounded by the waters and territory of Morocco. By accident of military conquest more than 500 years ago, this city, which is geographically African, is legally part of Spain. As the migrants reach the Mediterranean, where so many of their predecessors have died, Melilla offers them a bridge into Europe, if they can smuggle themselves across the barricaded perimeter. Melilla is a semicircle of 12 square kilometers curved out of the Moroccan coastline. The port and major beaches lie to the south, with the ferry terminal directly east. Melilla is one of the two permanently inhabited Spanish cities in mainland Africa on the Moroccan coast. These cultural islands have much in common. Their economies are rooted in cross-border commerce, their societies are strongly multicultural, and there is a significant military presence as a result of the strained relations. Melilla is nearly equally divided between Christians and Muslims, with the latter being predominantly Berber. With a population of about 78,000, Melilla is made up of Spaniards, ethnic Riffian Berbers, and a small number of Sephardic Jews. Spanish and Riffian Berber are the two most widely spoken languages, with Spanish being the official language. Melilla's economy is heavily dictated by its warm Mediterranean climate, influenced by its proximity to the sea and its relatively small temperature differences between seasons. This is why Melilla's principal industry is fishing. Most fruits and vegetables are imported across the border. Cross-border commerce is an additional income source. Many people who travel to Morocco from Europe use the ferry that links to Melilla. This is an important economic driver for the city. Melilla, though it appears to be a coastal getaway, is a key military and trading port. The government of Morocco has requested from Spain the sovereignty of Ceuta and Melilla and some other small territories. The Spanish position is that both Ceuta and Melilla are integral parts of the Spanish state and have been since the 15th century. Morocco denies these claims and maintains that the Spanish presence on or near its coast is a remnant of the colonial past which should be ended. The United Nations list of non-self-governing territories does not include these Spanish territories. The Guardia Civil of Melilla's border division is the first line of defense and obstacle for migrants. They have determined three key ways that migrants cross the border into the territory. One is by paying to hide in fake undercarriages of cars. This is the most expensive, followed by boat, then jumping the fences. Security in Melilla has changed rapidly in the past 15 years. In 2000, its borders were lined by just one easily penetrable fence. Since then, two additional high-security fences have been constructed, costing 33 million euros. Morocco has begun to construct its own fence around Melilla, which is an unexpected decision considering its desire to regain the land from Spain. Over the past decade, Morocco has received over 10 million euros in aid and technical resources from Europe to help limit the migratory movement. Morocco also has its own border police patrolling its side. Initially, Spain had plans to construct a razor wire fence, however mass civil protests ensued. Spain then reached out to Morocco and asked that they put them up instead. This collective effort has managed to temporarily lighten the number of migrants crossing. There is, however, another issue that arises with this collaboration. There are disputing opinions of where the border for Melilla actually begins. According to a Melillan judge, the Spanish border starts outside the first fence, meaning that once it is crossed, a pushback is illegal, as they have reached European soil, which follows the EU's laws. There are a number of reports of instances in which migrants have managed to arrive on Melilla's Spanish soil and have been sent back. If these reports are valid, returning the migrants to Moroccan forces is an illegal action. In 2014, Spain passed a heavily criticized amendment to its security bill, which effectively legalized pushbacks. Organic Law 4/2000 on the rights and freedoms of foreigners in Spain legalizes what are being called hot returns. These are unlawful expulsions of persons from Spanish territory without any of the necessary legal procedures having been carried out in respect for those migrants. The amendment allows the expulsion of migrants detected on the boundaries of Ceuta and Melilla without providing any legal process or procedural safeguards for those migrants. The Commissioner for Human Rights of the Council of Europe, Nils Muižnieks, the UN Human Rights Committee, and many NGOs have expressed their concerns that this may lead to the indiscriminate summary and collective expulsion of migrants without any effective remedy for them. The amendment counters Article 13 of the Spanish Constitution and Articles 18, the right to asylum, and 19, protection against collective expulsions, of the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union, as well as contradicting the international refugee law. This breaches both European and international human rights laws. However, the numerous violations by Spain have only resulted in verbal reprimands from the European Commission. Many activist groups have also been vocal about the danger of a third-party country, Morocco, having a grip on the crisis. Human rights organizations warn that with an additional national contributor, it becomes increasingly difficult to guarantee that the fundamental human rights of the immigrants are being upheld. This is required under the European Convention on Human Rights. Just beyond the fences in Morocco are a number of camps where migrants wait in hopes of an attempt to reach Melilla. The camps are divided by nationality, most refugees being from Cameroon, Mali, Senegal, the Ivory Coast, and Guinea. Because the camps are informal, the Moroccan police commonly raid them, driving out the migrants. Many of these raids become violent as Moroccan police arrive armed with battalions targeting the arms and feet of the migrants so they can no longer climb the fence. The international response to the increased number of refugees has varied throughout the countries of Europe. Spain's government has not been as welcoming as others, while the Spanish citizens are rallying for these refugees. This year, Spain first announced that they would only be accepting 2,749 refugees, an amount less than half of what the EU requires. It later increased this amount only after weeks of protests and pressure from its citizens. Spain finally agreed to accept the quota of 14,931 refugees. Individual cities such as Madrid and Valencia have been opening their arms to refugees, as well as donating money for resettlement services. Over the past decade, even year, European response to refugees looking to enter the continent has shifted. In order to tackle the mass movement, European countries are spending hundreds of millions of euros to strengthen their borders. One of the most predominant examples of this is the alteration of the Schengen zone. This is a passport-free, 26 countries area within which border control are not allowed and serves as one of the key elements of the European Union. However, in recent months, several nations, including Germany, Austria, Slovakia, France, and the Netherlands, abruptly re-established border controls in light of the refugee influx. However, once a migrant has arrived in Europe, there are still a number of challenges they must face. Ultimately, the issue of the successful integration of these refugees into society at large comes down to their employment prospects. Long-term unemployment, as a percentage of total unemployment, has increased for the non-EU-born population from 28.7% in 2009 to 52% in 2014. This shows that even if refugees arrive and settle in a European country, there are still safety nets and long-term societal integration programs that should be in place. To better demonstrate Melilla's role in refugee migration into Europe, we have used Meadows' system. We begin with the refugee's native African country. War, poverty, and climate change encourage and force people to become refugees, seeking stability and safety elsewhere. These refugees are inputs into the stock of Melilla. Illegal Spanish pushbacks, fences and security systems, the Guardia Civil, and the Moroccan involvement all combined to create a reinforcing feedback loop. These factors make it increasingly difficult for refugees to reach and stay in the stock of Melilla. Once refugees make it to Melilla, their goal is to become migrants and arrive in Europe. EU law, the Commissioner for Human Rights of the Council of Europe, NGOs, and advocacy groups create a balancing loop. This allows and secures migrants the opportunity to integrate into European society. The Malian migrant crisis comes at a time of heightened tension regarding refugees into Europe. As the Syrian civil war forces thousands of Syrians out of their homes, there is an additional influx of refugees flooding into the EU. This has increased Europe's security threat of terrorism, as seen in the recent attacks in Paris by a group of migrants who entered the EU posed as refugees. While refugees continue to flood into Europe, this causes increased incentives to secure the border between Africa and Spain and Melilla. As the crisis continues, European countries must determine their individual moral obligation to human rights laws regarding refugees. With winter approaching, there is increased pressure for European countries to create a system to accommodate these refugees.